بس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to resume our classes on spirituality in Islam. As you remember, we discussed the topic of tasbih as one of the key concepts in Islamic spirituality. After talking about dhikr and qurb, etc. At the end of last session, I said we need to discuss a little bit about the notion of tasbih and how we can understand it when it applies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also to our social work. For example, when Musa alayhi salam said, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri, up to Kay nusabbihaka kathiran wa nadhkuraka kathira. So I said we will discuss few minutes about this, and then we will talk about the concept of dua, which is very important concept in Islamic spirituality. I don't know if you had chance to reflect and study about the general notion of tasbih after two sessions that we discussed, especially tasbih of Allah. What does it mean that Allah does tasbih? And our tasbih in the social work that we do, in the community work, I don't know, humanitarian work. What does tasbih mean here? Okay, so let us discuss it few minutes, and then inshallah we go to the discussion about dua. So tasbih, as you know, in Arabic comes from the root sabaha, and sabaha means to swim, to float smoothly. Sorry, if you can maybe mute, if you can mute, then maybe there is less noise. Thank you. So, sabaha means to swim. Masbah means swimming pool. From the same root, we have tasbih, subhan, sabbaha, yusabbihu. Some people have tried to make a connection, and it is good to attempt, but it may not help us that much, because sometimes these considerations which are linguistic do not have very close impact on the technical terms, but still it's good to see these attempts. But what we can understand from the Quran and Hadith is that, in a sense, everything is in a motion, in a very continuous, uninterrupted, but also a smooth and calm motion towards God. There is no interruption. There is no, for example, a stop for some time and then all of a sudden a quick and then going down. No, there is a continuous, a steady motion towards God. إلى الله المصير. Everything is returning towards God. Although sayrura doesn't necessarily mean return, sayrura means becoming, but with إلى ربك منتهاها إنا إليه راجعون إلى ربك الرجعة, we understand that this motion is also a matter of returning. So everything is in sayrura, in becoming and turning towards Him, but also in a returning way. So it's not that we are going to Allah for the first time. We all come from Him. And when I say we, it's not only human beings, every creature. Human beings, animals, plants, non-living beings, all we are turning back towards Him. And this is a motion which is very smooth, and it's like tasbih, like swimming. But when it comes to human beings and jinns and their voluntary actions, there is a chance that they may refuse to go back to God. Actually, they want to go against the current, and sometimes they want to go far from God. Not necessarily by consciously intending that they want to go far from God. Some of them may not even acknowledge the existence of God. But by deciding to do things that means they are going away from God. When you do something immoral, when you do it, for example, injustice, you don't need to mean that I am trying to go away from God. You are doing this anyway. So, like, qurbatan ilallah, people do things bu'dan min Allah, in order to go away from God, even if they don't understand. So, either we acknowledge our journey towards God. إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ كَدْحًا فَمُلَاقِيهِ. We acknowledge that, and we try actually to go back to Him. مَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ. This مَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو, this yarju means that you acknowledge that إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ كَدْحًا فَمُلَاقِيهِ, and you want to actually return to Him. Or we may fail to want to go back to Him. And this has different levels. To fail means not to want to go back, or to want not to go back. Sometimes you just fail to want, sometimes you want not to go back. Sometimes people have ghafla, sometimes people deliberately they want to go to opposite direction. And many times, often, those who want to go away from God, they refuse to return to God. Normally, it happens that they also don't stop there. They don't want others also to go back to God. So, يَصُدُّونَ عَنِ السَّبِيلِ. They are so hostile that they don't want others also to go. Like sometimes people who don't fast, for example, they don't practice. They don't want others also to fast. They want to stop. Or someone, who is doing, something wrong, they want other people also to do the same. And when they see a person is, for example, practicing or, muttaqi, God-fearing, it hurts them. Yeah, they want everyone to be like them. So this is why those who deliberately want to go away from God normally end up with blocking the way for others. And those who want to go back to God, they wish other people also go back to God, and they want to serve them. So we have two kind of attitudes, generally speaking. One is that you remember God and want to help others remembering God. This is dhikr. You are a reminder for others. This is the core concept of tabligh, means you help people to remember God. Zakir. This is what we are supposed to do, to remember and remind others. The opposite is they forget God, they turn away from God, and they want to make other people also forget God. Okay? So, this is on the voluntary level. This is when it comes to the heart, and especially the conscious part of the heart. Otherwise, existentially, everyone is going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said. This, but at the level of voluntary and conscious decisions, then people have different approach. إن من شيء إلا يسبح بحمده means that existentially everything is moving towards God, and everything is reminding others of God. Everything is an ayah of God, a sign of God, because they are doing all the time tasbih, they are all the time going back to Allah. They can be reminders of others. This is the meaning of ayah. And we are supposed to be ayah of God. But when it comes to our voluntary actions, then we may be ayah or we may not be ayah. When Allah says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ, soon we will show them our signs in horizons and in themselves. This is existential level. Even a kafir is a sign of God. Yeah, existentially, you can reflect on a kafir. Even a kafir can do ma'rifatun nafs and find God. But we are supposed to be actively and consciously a sign of God. And that can only happen if you yourself remember God and try to facilitate other people's remembrance of God. So, tasbih means that we are existentially and voluntarily ayah doing tasbih. But what about God? What does tasbih of God mean? Then it is obvious. If when we are signs of God or reminders for God are doing tasbih, what about God Himself? When we reflect Him, we are doing tasbih. What about the very existence that we try to remind others of Him? So He is doing more tasbih. Who is greater, sign of God or God? So God does not do tasbih of another being. God, by being what He is, and doing what He does, is doing perfect tasbih. Our tasbih is to move towards Him and reflect Him. His tasbih is to be the center of every reality, be absolute being and perfection that He is, and attracting us towards Himself. Okay? If God had any deficiency or any imperfection, he was not doing tasbih. Or if God had disconnected himself from us, he was not doing tasbih. So, our tasbih and God's tasbih are very closely connected, but at the same time, they are fundamentally different. The difference between a fact and a mirror, a sign, a shadow, a reminder. Now, when we want to be reminders of God, when we want to glorify God voluntarily, this is not just by words to say, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. You know, it's like to say, people, let us remember that God is perfect. Let us negate bad things from God. Just to say that is not enough. What you are actually doing, what direction in life you have taken in general, and what direction you are taking every minute, in every decision, in every word. Okay? For example, I wake up in the morning, from the time I say salam to my family, interact with them, then I go out for work, for meeting, driving, buying, selling. All these are motions. They have directions. Are they directed to our ego and egoistic interest? Are they directed towards God? So if I say, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, but in these motions, my directions are not towards Him, I'm not doing tasbih. If I commit a sin, if I commit zulm, or even if I don't do anything bad, just the fact that I forget God and forget my return to Him and forget that I have to remind people of Him, this is also a problem. This is also a failure. This is khusran, this is loss. Loss in direction, loss in achievements. Our life will be then going towards greater loss all the time. So, Musa alayhi salam said, I want your help with Sharh Sad. I wanted, helper. I want, ease of my affairs. I want to have no blockage in my tongue, etc. كي نسبحك كثيرا وَنَذْكُرَكَ كَثِيرًا. He could have said, to save Bani Israel, to stop a tyrant like Pharaoh, to bring peace and solidarity and equity and social justice. He could have said all these things. But he said something which covers everything. Remember you, we want to remember you more and glorify you more. كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا. It is very interesting that when it comes to remembrance of Allah and tasbih, quantity and quality match. Please remember this point, it's very important. Normally, we distinguish between quantity and quality of things. Sometimes increase of quantity doesn't help with the betterment of quality. Yeah? Even sometimes it actually harms. For example, if I give few classes every day, the quantity can be good. But if I give 20 classes, the quality may go down. I don't have energy, I don't have time to prepare. So quantity and quality sometimes can actually work against each other, and sometimes just they don't come necessarily with each other. But when it comes to remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tasbih, there is no way to do more dhikr and more tasbih without improving the quality. And no way to improve the quality without increasing the quantity. Because it's a matter of direction. When you are moving towards God, you have to make sure that you purify your motion and go faster towards Him. There is no separation here, let alone conflict. Therefore, اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا or اذكروا الله كذكركم آباءكم أو أشد ذكرا, and both also come together. So, we don't need to say كي نسبحك better. We want to do better tasbih. We want to do better dhikr. No, you can say to do more tasbih, because more means better. So, if in a society there is someone like Fir'aun and his system, and everything is based on serving this unjust system, and those who actually take advantage are the people who are in the top positions in that system, and those who are going to lose a lot are the people who are in the bottom. In this society, you can only glorify God as a person or as a family or as a small community. In large scale, every relation is made in the way that is against going back to God, is against taking godly direction in life. You cannot have general movement towards God in a society that Fir'aun is deciding the relations and designing these relations. Okay? So, Musa could do two things. Musa could go somewhere in a cave and do more ibadah, more even, saying names of God and tasbih and, takbir. Yeah, increase his ibadah. He could do that. But this could help very little. But now, with this mission that God is giving Musa, with the revelation that he's receiving, with the support that he's receiving, he hopes that he can change the system. If the system changes, then God can be glorified better. Because instead of one person or two people having right direction in life, then the whole society, or at least majority of them, can have direction towards God. And for sure, individuals moving towards God is much less than a society going towards God, even if the number are the same. For example, 1,000 people individually go to God, or a society of 1,000 people collectively go towards God. This is millions of times better. So, anything good that you do that make your direction towards God consistent, stable, this is tasbih. But the better tasbih is when we do it collectively, when we make sure that our relations reflect God, not only us individually. I wish we were able to work more on collective goodness, on social wilaya, etc., so that when people observe our relations also, they see relations are godly, not just individuals. The way we, as teacher and student, I don't know, employees, neighbors, staff, buying, selling, the way we interact, if they show God, these are better signs of God than just a person alone doing ibadah. So, any positive change means you try to do tasbih. But what about Allah? Allah is absolute goodness. He doesn't need to do something new. He doesn't need to change. He is what He is. And He is the source of all the goodness that we try to bring. So His tasbih is perfect. Whether we do it or not, His tasbih is perfect. But we try to do tasbih. So for us, is a command, sabbih, sabbihu. But for Allah, there is no command. He is doing this out of His essence. Yes, sometimes Allah Himself says in the Quran that I made it necessary for myself to do something. كَتَبَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ الرَّحْمَةِ. But this is not a command like us when we are commanded. When He says He has written down upon Himself, it means that this is His essential quality. Not that He has a taklif as an obligation that He may observe, He may not observe, He has to be answerable. لا يسأل عما يفعل. لا يسأل عما يفعل, not like نعوذ بالله, نعوذ بالله, نعوذ بالله, like a tyrant that no one can ask him. No, لا يسأل عما يفعل means actually you can ask Him any question. Even angels ask Him questions. But it means that He is not going to be in need of answering questions because He is always doing the best. He's always doing the perfect. Whom do you ask? Whom you bring to questioning? Those that can do good things and bad things. So we have to listen to them. Why you did this, not that? What was your reason? But we don't even ask angels. Do we have any questioning for angels? No. So how can then we ask Allah why you did that or why you do that? He doesn't need. Even angels don't need that because they always do the good thing. And Allah always does the best thing. So this was a little reflection about the general notion of tasbih. And I hope it helps to widen our scope of tasbih. And don't think tasbih is just to say subhanallah. No, it's much, much more than that. Everything good comes under tasbih. We said before, takbir comes under tasbih, hamd comes under tasbih, tahleel comes under tasbih, istighfar comes under tasbih, social reform, personal development, everything comes under tasbih. Okay, this is the discussion about tasbih. Let me see, what is the salat time here?